Okay, I'm going to show you the elements of preparing a rocket for a launch. For the first time you'll get a rocket in a pack like this. This is a complete starter kit, and you will get engines and other accessories separately. To begin with, if you take out your pack, you should have in there the following. You've got your rocket body, you've got the launch pad and the launch control. Colours may be different, some are yellow, some are black. You have the parachute together with instructions in there, and also the launch rods. Initially, take your rocket and undo it. As this is not only fun but also meant to be a science lesson for the children, please explain to them the various parts of the rocket. Initially, the nose cone, that is pointy shape. The reason why it's pointy shape, it cuts through the air, reduces resistance. Normally in a real life situation, the nose cone's got the payload in it. You will have the astronauts, cosmonauts, satellites or whatever else it's carrying. The body of the rocket is cylindrical, again, so it doesn't create any resistance in the air, smooth shape. The purpose of the body is just to contain the propellant fuel, and at the end here you have fins. The fins are to stabilise the rocket in flight. If once the rocket is launched we have no control over it, therefore these fins will create a certain resistance against the air to stop it turning as it's flying. So you can make an explanation, draw it out, check back with them, ask them to give you the scientific words for the various things about which you're talking, friction, resistance, etc. To assemble the rocket, what we're going to do is attach the parachute. The idea is that the parachute will guide the rocket safely down to Earth. Now, what happens with our rocket motors is that the rocket motor is designed to work in two parts. Your rocket motor has got one end with a small hole in it, into which we're going to fit the fuses. That will go into the rocket, and when the rocket fires, the propellant is going to come out of this end of the rocket. Let me just put this together for you a moment. So the rocket engine is in there. The propellant is going to come out, make the rocket fly. At the top of its parabola, that's at the highest point, the motor will be expended. There will be a pause, and at the end of that pause there will be a puff of smoke, and the rocket will fire from this end. So it's previously been firing from this end, a pause, and then it will fire from this end. The force that fires at this end is designed to push the nose cone off the rocket, and as it falls down with the parachute attached, it will fall down to Earth and you'll be able to recover it. So, to put the rocket parachute on, it's probably easiest to remove the elastic first of all gives you a little bit of working space. So that elastic is coming out from the nose cone, and you see that you have an eye there. Your parachute comes already with its guide wires on it. If you open it up, you'll see that you have 3 pairs. 1, 2, and there's a third one. What you need to do is to take it so that you're holding all 3 loops like that, gather them together and pass them through the eye in the nose cone. Once you have all 3 through, just open them up again. So you have all 3 like that. And then in order to secure the parachute to the nose cone, pass the nose cone through that loop and just hold it secure. So there you have the nose cone securely attached to your parachute. Now we need to just reattach the shock cord, so that goes back through this hole, and you might find that it needs a little bit of encouragement. You might find it needs a lot of encouragement. Try that one again. Obviously you have to be fairly gentle with this because you don't want to break out the hole. Okay, perseverance is paid off. I've now got the shock cord passed through the hole, and what I need to do is just tie it off in a double knot. That's once, and try it again. So that is now secure. So you have the parachute and the shock cord both attached to the nose cone, and the shock cord is also attached to the body of the rocket. Now, I said that the bottom end of the rocket fires the propellant and then we get a burst from the top. that will produce a lot of hot gases. This is a plastic parachute, so it would burn. So what we need to do is to use some wadding. This is basically fireproof tissue paper, and it's perforated. So just take off a couple of pieces. That's one and that's two. So we've got 2 pieces of wadding, and what you need to do is to just gently push them into the body, and that will absorb the greatest part of the hot gases coming back up. Take your parachute, fold it together. When you do this, you don't want anything to be too tight, because it's got to be able to release itself when it's in the air. So having taken that, you can just get rid of the wires like so, fold that and drop that into the body of the rocket. Then just feed in the remainder of the shock cord like so, and put the nose cone on. Now you'll find that the nose cone is fairly loosely fitting. It's designed like that. When it's actually flying, the pressure of the air is going to keep the nose cone on the rocket. So the pressure coming down is going to keep the nose cone on the body of the rocket. But you want it to be loosely fitting so that when you get this reverse charge, the rocket is going to part from the nose cone, and you're going to get separation. As it pulls away, your parachute will come out and deploy, and the rocket will gently drift down to Earth. Now, that's the top end of the rocket dealt with. Let me just put this back together again. Okay, that's the top end dealt with. Now we need to deal with the motor end. There's a little cap on there which twists, quarter turn, and it comes off. So we just put that aside for the moment. Your rockets, you'll find, come in 2 sizes. You'll find that they're got a number and a letter. This one is an A83 and this one is a B64. An A is a less powerful motor, a B is a more powerful motor. You'll be supplied both A and B motors, and you will need to use your discretion according to circumstances as to whether you're going to use the more or the less powerful motor. If you're in a field where there's plenty of room and you've no problem in recovering the rocket, so it doesn't matter if it goes higher, you'll use a larger B motor. If on the other hand you're in a restricted area and you don't want the rocket to go so high, because the higher it goes, the more likely it is to drift away from the launch pad, you would use a smaller A motor. Now, each motor has its own plug, which I'll talk about in a minute. The A motor has the purple one and the B motor has the yellow one. You will also get igniters. They are basically 2 wires, or 1 wire which is looped with a special burning material at the end, and a piece of brown paper which is stuck to hold it together again. When you look at your igniter, make sure that the wires are not touching at the top of the sort of bottle area, but they only come together at the tip where you've got the black cordite. Now what you do is you take your selected motor, You put the igniter into the hole there, make sure it's all the way in and pressed against the side, and just bend it down so that it's at a right angles to begin with. You then take your appropriate plug, and in this case it is the pink one, and you just cut or break off one, so you should be left with one small plug. That goes into the end of the rocket motor and just presses home firmly. Now you need to take the two wire ends and make what is called, in very technical terms, bunny rabbit's ears. Just take it and bend it round against itself, so it's comes around 360 degrees, and similarly with this side. So you've now effectively got on the rocket two loops. Now you have to plug goes back in. Now, to put this into the rocket body, it has to pass through here. So first of all, we'll just drop the engine into the base of the rocket. It's fairly loose and it does stick up proud, it doesn't go all the way in. Fold over the brown paper a little bit and just bring the end up so that you can take the locking nut that just slides over the end of the rocket engine and just give it a twist and push it into place. So you now have everything all in situ. If you like, you can always opt to put the igniter in after you've already put the engine in. This one decides it's got a will of its own, I think, today. So there you have the situation where you have got the igniter with its two bunny rabbit's ears sticking out of the bottom of the rocket, and you just have that at 90 degrees. Now, let's address the launch pad. You get this packet. Inside there are 3 legs to form a tripod launch pad. 3 legs, 1, 2, 3. You get a central piece which joins it all together, and inside there you will probably find a button attached to a ribbon, and also a key which is used in locating the blast pad. Taking each leg, you just slide it on. So, and you'll notice that the key part is lowest as it slides on. The key part at the bottom there slides onto there. So there you have your launch base. Now, you'll also take out the blast plate. The blast plate is designed so that the hot exhaust gases do not melt your plastic launch base, and you will see that the centre here you have a hole which is slightly keyed. Those keys tie up with this black plastic part. That fits over the launch rods, which are here. Now you will find that these come with two pieces of plastic. They keep the rods together when you're not using them, so it's well worth putting them somewhere safe so you don't lose them, so you can put this neatly away when you're finished. You'll notice that the rods are slightly different. This one has a small extension on it, and this one has a hole which will receive the extension. What you need to do is bring them together and just push slightly so that you've got a joint there. Now, this launch rod fits into the top, that joining piece. Loosen the wing nut if you need to give yourself some space. These rods are the narrow gauge ones, and they go into the smaller of the two holes. So that just pushes in, and then when it's in, just screw that up tightly. Now, the launch rod can be adjusted on here so that you can make allowance for the wind, so it can tip to either direction. You'll realise that when the rocket launches, if supposing there was a strong wind coming from my left, the rocket will go up, and then after the parachute deploys, it will tend to be blown across to the right. Therefore, if you launch slightly to the left, when the rocket parachute deploys, hopefully it will come down somewhere near where you are. So you can use this as a small adjustment to go left or right. Not too much, but it will be a case of trial and error until you gain more experience. So the next thing you need to do is to take this piece of plastic, drop that over the rod, and then the last plate goes over, and you align the keys on that to the plastic. Right, now the rocket itself has got two holes as guides which will go down the launch rod, so you just slide that over so, and the rocket goes down on the pad. One of the things that you should do is, with the igniter, just make sure that it comes up between the two rocket fins so that it's not obstructed. Next, we have your all-important firing mechanism. As I say, this could be yellow or it could be black. There is a lamp or light bulb there which is protected by a little dome. Try and be careful with that. the light bulbs actually come from America. They've got a different fitting to the UK bulbs and they're very hard to obtain over here. So I prefer you not to break it if possible. You have attached to that a length of wire. In terms of the distance away from the rocket launch, if you are at the full extent of the wire, then you're far enough away. Make sure that any audience is as far away as you are. Right, so you take that off. You'll find that on the end of this wire you have two crocodile clips, and here you have a little button, little pin that fits into a hole there. That is for actual firing and testing. Now, what you need to do is to put two batteries in.